Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin, and this is my 30-year reflection on Clash of the Champions 1, the NWA event that went opposite of WrestleMania 4. And I gotta say, the Clash of Champions 1 actually turned out to be better. Now, that could have to do also with the shorter length. The Clash of Champions 1 was only about an hour and 50 minutes. WrestleMania 4 went nearly 4 hours. And I'm not going to do a 30-year reflection on WrestleMania 4. I will on Randy Savage's title win. In fact, you might see that video before this one even goes up, as I'm shooting a bunch of shows today, because it's going to be the only time I have a chance to shoot a whole bunch of shows before we get into Mania week. We're actually just over 2 weeks until WrestleMania happens. But Clash of Champions 1, I wanted to watch again. Now, I'd already seen the main event a bunch of times, so I watched a bit of it, but I remember that match pretty damn well. The reason I wanted to watch the rest of the card, though, is to get a little refresher course. It has 5 matches on it, and the main event, of course, takes up 53 minutes. So really, you only have an hour to do 4 matches, so some of them are pretty damn quick. It was really kind of cool, though, that Jim Crockett Promotions, after the whole thing with Starrcade 87 and with Bunkhouse Stampede kind of being nullified by Vince, that, it's like, okay, we're going to put this opposite of your big show. And it did a really tremendous rating. I actually remember watching this at a friend's house just up the road, a few houses down from mine, because they had a better cable package, and also he was a wrestling fan, his uncle was a wrestling fan, so hey, I was able to watch that. So anyway, I remember watching this, and even at 7 years old, I was captivated by these, grand superstars in this great wrestling. And we started off with Jimmy Garvin and Mike Rotundo. Mike Rotundo is what they called him. I'm going to call him Mike Rotunda. In a WCW, NWA TV title match. And this was under amateur rules, so it was 3 5-minute rounds and a 30-minute rest, or 30-second rest period between each round. And a 1 count would gain you the fall. So basically, like amateur rules. It was very odd. It was very, very odd. I mean, so the first round passes with with a close near fall happening. And it wasn't bad, but then you had Kevin Sullivan there at ringside, Mike Rotunda's corner, and Precious, of course, Jimmy's wife, in the corner, and Kevin Sullivan's trying to attack Precious. And Garvin goes over to get his wife. And stop Kevin Sullivan. Rotunda rolls him up, gets the victory. And then Kevin Sullivan, by the way, absolute shit in the ring. I mean, I don't think wrestling was ever necessarily his forte. I mean, he was obviously a blood and guts guy and could talk, I guess. But I always thought he was pretty shit, honestly. And then Precious had no fear. She was attacking Kevin Sullivan. Stark contrast to Great American Bash 88, when they decided to do this thing where Sullivan and Precious were locked in a cage, because that's what Sullivan did afterwards. But this was a bit messy, but the crowd was really hot. I mean, they were in Greensboro, North Carolina, or as Nikita Koloff later said, Greenboro. Best English. Nikita Koloff, pretty good talent for what he was. Not a bad match, not a great opener, but whatever. Crowd was still hot. And then we had the first of 2 tag team matches, and then there was a 6-man match in here. Midnight Express and Jim Cornette versus the Fantastics U.S. tag title match. And this was good. This was really good. It was a very condensed match compared to stuff they could have done if they were given more time, like if this was on a pay-per-view, or if this was even on, say, NWA, WCW TV, and they were given, say, 30 minutes, they could have told an even better story, but it was a very condensed match. It was a brawl from the beginning. Chairs, tables. Tommy Rogers got bulldogged on a table, got busted open at one point. It was just wild action all over the place. Rogers was pretty much beating up the whole damn match. And then, of course, Fulton gets a tag finally. He's upset. Somehow the referee, Randy Anderson, gets thrown over the top rope, so that automatically is a DQ, but he's knocked out. Fantastics suddenly get a pin. 1, 2, 3, new U.S. Tag Team Champions? Nope, not so much, because Randy Anderson comes in after the second referee had done that decision. Randy Anderson, original referee, reverses it, and there we go. We have the Midnight Express with the U.S. Tag Team Championships, but boy, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, great action, wild brawl. Not a great match. They've certainly had better matches since. before and since this, but it was good. It was good stuff. I really enjoyed this. I can't say, of course, like that it wouldn't have been better with more time, but for what it was, they did very, very well here and really had the crowd hot. The Greensboro crowd was on fire this whole damn show, which was fantastic to hear. That's one thing I love about the old crowds is they have a whole lot of, oh God, it's like we just love this wrestling. And Southern wrestling fans really did appreciate their great wrestling. So then we have an interview with Al Perez and Gary Hart. Al Perez, odd person, bit crazy. Gary Hart, one of the best managers, pretty underrated. Good talker. Shame he was in such a bad wreck. I believe a bad plane crash where he was beat up and he wasn't really able to take any bumps. But it was basically just hype for a future feud with Dusty. That's all it essentially was. And then you had I kid you not, this was a 6-man Texas barbed wire match under Chicago Street Fight rules in Greensboro, North Carolina. Dusty sometimes overbooked things a little bit. I mean, Dusty's one of the best bookers that ever has been as far as success. But boy, that's a mouthful right there. As Road Warriors and Dusty, Animal wearing a mask because recently people had gone after his eye. They were playing up an eye injury, whether completely legit or played up for drama. He was still wearing a mask. So Road Warriors and Dusty versus Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff. And again, it was weird. It was odd because there was barbed wire just kind of looped loosely around these ropes, and there was some blood, as you would expect. Of course, there was blood. Dusty and the Road Warriors get the victory. Cool, whatever. Powers Pain went after Animal's eye, taking off the protective mask and all that stuff. It was a way to keep heat on keep heat on the heels despite the baby faces winning. It was just weird. It wasn't bad, but the crowd was still hot for it. And then of course Nikita Koloff, coming back with one, he came back with better look as far as hair. I mean, he'd had that hair for a little bit. But the bit of a more styled look, and he basically just called out a bunch of people like Tully Blanchard and stuff like that. It was just a way to hype future feuds. And speaking of Tully, you have Tarn and Ollie, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Easy for me to say. Versus Barry Windham and Lex Luger for the NWA Tag Team Championships. Of course, I believe at one point JR saying the package is trying to make quick work. These lines always make me laugh. Lex Luger was not the total package. He was a total idiot, but that's about all he was. If you want my opinions on Lex Luger, check out my top 40 least favorite wrestlers of all time. There's also other rants I've done on Lex. I don't like Lex at all. I don't. I don't. You guys can if you want. That's fine. I just never cared for the guy. I just never thought he was really all that good. It was a very quick title change, though. This was a very condensed match. But Windham and Luger getting the victory was certainly big. I mean, Arn and Tully didn't look weak, and JJ wasn't really able to interfere and, cost the decision for the babyfaces. But Barry and Lex getting the win, it was really just a quick title change where, Barry was going to turn on Lex, and then they were going to feud for a little bit. And then Barry was going to join the Four Horsemen. Actually, this would lead to him being U.S. champion soon after this. So that was pretty cool. So it was good. It was good stuff. This was probably the better of the two tag matches as far as keeping it more in the ring. I mean, yeah, there was a little bit of outside stuff. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the energy of the Midnight Express Fantastics match. But they've also had better matches than that. And then you have Sting versus Flair, 45-minute edge of your seat beauty, where Flair made Sting a star. For the NWA title, TV time remaining, I almost wish they could have gone the full hour. I think you probably could have cut Jimmy Garvin. All due respect to Jimmy Garvin, and especially Mike Rotunda, you probably could have cut that match, and you could have just started off the Fantastics and Midnight Express, and you could have given the time you gave to the TV title match to this, and they could have gone the full hour. Don't get me wrong, what they did was certainly great, and Sting, for having just been in the business a couple years, looked like a star. Flair made him look like a star. Ric Flair could make tons of people look like stars, as opposed to Hulk Hogan. He didn't really like to make people look like stars necessarily. But judges scored the bout just in case, it went to a draw, which it did. and the judges ended up drawing the whole thing. It's like it ended up being a wash essentially. So Sting didn't lose, and neither did Flair, and Flair retained. And that's exactly why. That's exactly how you make somebody. It's how you make a star. It's how you make a star there without having your heel lose. It's a damn shame that just under 2 years after this, they were going to have it happen at Wrestle War, where Sting was going to put the belt, or Sting was going to get the belt. Flair was going to put the belt on Sting, and that didn't happen because Sting tore his knee up a couple weeks before that. So, great stuff. And of course, JJ was in a cage for this, so he couldn't interfere, or at least interfere the way he wanted to. It was good stuff. It was just great. I mean, they would have great matches after this. This is one of their best. Of course, one of their worst would probably be what happened on Impact in 2010, 2011, I think, 2011, if I recall correctly. The last one on Nitro wasn't all that good either, or on the last Nitro. But this is really good stuff. I would recommend checking out Clash of Champions 1. It certainly flowed better than Mania 4. And that's nothing against the talent on the Mania 4 card. It was just stretched out so long with a giant tournament and a battle royal and a tag bout and an IC title bout. It was just dragging on too much. You tried to cram too much on it. Yes, with this one, you had 5 matches, one that went 45 minutes, so 50 minutes with the entrances and stuff like that, and a judge's decision. But this had a better flow to it. Sure, it crammed a couple of the tag matches and everything where maybe they couldn't do every spot and tell the best stories, but they still did the best they could. This was better than WrestleMania 4, and that's nothing against anybody in particular on that card. So anyway, that's my reflection on Clash of the Champions 1. What do you guys think of this? Are you guys interested to see me review more of these Clash of Champions events? And yeah, I'm going to do more of these reflection shows as time goes on. I will also probably just, after we get to about the summer, I'll probably be doing the Shockmaster one just as its own reflection, because the Shockmaster botch is ridiculous. But I really enjoy doing these shows, so I really hope you guys too do as well. Anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with Jar Mittlen. I'm Jar Mittlen, and I will see you soon.